Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. We've received some questions asking how can members of the public who are not able to travel to Judge Stephen J. Hippler's courtroom in Ada County to watch open proceedings over the internet. Another question that we've received recently is whether the very important final pretrial conference scheduled for May 15th, is that going to be another closed proceeding like the hearing that's coming up tomorrow, May 5th, that was just set as a remote, closed, and sealed proceeding will be? Well, to answer the first question, if you go to your search engine and plug in the term Idaho cases of interest, it will pull up a state of Idaho judicial branch website where certain high-profile cases and links to court records are found. Currently, one of those high-profile cases is State of Idaho versus Brian C. Kohberger. And you see here there are various hot links to the case summary page maintained by the clerk of court to document all major events in the case. The documents that are public appear here, as well as the case summary page. The very first item, watch hearings live. If you hit that hot link, it will take you to Idaho Cases of Interest, 4th District Court. And that is where you can watch the final pretrial conference if it is public. This goes now to the second inquiry. Is the final pretrial conference in advance of the summer trial in this case open or closed to the public? It appears as of right now that proceeding, at least part of it, will be open to the public. And the evidence that we can point to suggesting that this will be an open proceeding is the very order that set the final pretrial conference for May 15th. And I am speaking of Judge Hippler's October 9th, 2024 order. This document lists all of the major matters that must occur pre-trial leading up to the trial that you see that is scheduled to commence August 11th, 2025. If you go through this document, it lists the motions schedule. It lists expert witness disclosures and other matters governing trial, such as submission of proposed jury questionnaires. And by the way, the only part of this document that's redacted, as stated in the title, is the date that the jury questionnaires will be disseminated to the good people of the 4th Judicial District who will be summoned for possible jury duty in this case. The date of when the jury questionnaires will be submitted to them to be used as a tool at voir dire is unknown. It only tells us here that it will be sometime during 2025. Getting back to the final pretrial conference, if you look at the final bullet, page 1 of this order, you see right there that this order is what set the final pretrial conference to commence May 15th, 2025. And then if necessary, it will carry over to May 16th, 2025. It does not say here that this is a closed and sealed hearing. You will note that there's other parts of this order that directs the parties to submit things under seal. Therefore, such things as the aforementioned proposed jury questionnaires were to be submitted and were submitted, if you look on the docket, under seal by both sides. However, just because at the time of the scheduling of this final pretrial conference back on October 9th, 2024, over a half year ago, mentioning nothing about it being closed and sealed from the public, this does not guarantee 100% that the hearing on the 15th, and if necessary going into the 16th, will be open to the public at all, given that there was a hearing that was set last week with no notification as to what the purpose of the hearing was, as a sealed, closed, remote hearing. No guarantee that the final pretrial conference will be open to the public. It could be scheduled between now and the 14th of May as a closed, sealed hearing as well, in part or in total, which is why it's important to continue to monitor the docket to see if there's any changes, such as a notification and order from Judge Stephen J. Hippler that the final pretrial conference is sealed. There may also be a motion or a stipulation from one or between both of the parties to seal that final pretrial conference. We must continue to monitor the docket. There's other evidence that at least part of this hearing may be closed, because during that hearing, the defense's submissions of offers of proof regarding alternate perpetrators are going to be discussed. That was set forth in the court's order directing the defense to submit offers of proof, evidence, direct and or circumstantial, that someone else other than Mr. Kohberger is the true perpetrator of the horrendous crimes at 1122 King Road. That's going to require the naming of a possible alternate perpetrator or perpetrators by Mr. Kohberger. So if that's going to be discussed at the final pretrial conference, I would take an educated guess that at least that portion of the final pretrial conference would probably be sealed from the public. Again, we can only continue to monitor the docket to see if we see any indication of the parties moving to have that hearing be sealed and closed, or an order from the court sua sponte, of his own volition, sealing and closing that hearing. My recommendation is, if you have an interest in the case and if you're able to watch that event live. I'd also like to invite you to a live event that we are going to be hosting a week from today on the 11th of May here on this YouTube channel to address the final pre-trial conference. The facts, not the fairy tales, as taken from the court records, which is what we do. If you like our content, I would appreciate it if you could hit a like and consider subscribing to the channel. If you have any comments or feedback, please leave it here. All of your feedback is appreciated. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thank you for joining us here today.